calm is contagious. If you can react to any tricky parenting situation from a place of calm and firm, you're getting to the bottom of why the behaviors are there.
Shout out to our sponsor, Local Cold Brew Coffee. Welcome to Book BFFs, the show that celebrates wonderful people and the books they're inspired by. I'm your host, Jenny Valdez, and today I am here with the beautiful Noelle Bryant. How are you, my love?
Great, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. I know you're a bit nervous, but I love that because we were talking about how sometimes on social media it's easier to talk through a phone than it is to be here, but
100%.
I'm excited that you're being the amazing mom you are and stepping outside of your comfort zone and
Thank
choosing
you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You are very welcome. I see you have all this beautiful information for mothers, and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So I am myself a certified positive parenting educator, and I have a blog, Oh Happy Play, which is a motherhood lifestyle blog. So there I've shared everything. I've kind of coined it as kidspiration. I share kid inspiration. And it all started after having my own children and just sharing spaces from them. And it kind of pivoted more to the parenting realm after the birth of my second daughter. I don't remember specifically when I realized that my intuitive parenting was a little bit different than those around me, but I do credit a lot of the naturalness to it to my husband, which surprisingly, I always joke that he was born a positive parenting expert, and I learned along the way. But there's a specific moment I do remember when my blog itself pivoted to parenting realm, and it was shortly after my second daughter was born. I have 4 kids, and my first was only a year and a half at the time, and she was going through all that normal new baby jealousy. And as much as I knew she was having that jealousy, that frustration was still hard to ignore. Her behaviors seemed out of control, but really, her inside, she felt out of control. So I remember vividly that day texting my husband and just being, voicing my frustration to him. And he texted me back 5 little words. He said, "Bring her in, big hugs." And, it was just exactly what I needed and what she needed at that time. And so I did that, and she kind of melted in my arms, and I probably melted in hers too. And it was just this realization of, she was going through a lot. She was worried that she was going to lose her mom to this new baby that just showed up. And so, long story short, I shared about that in 2016, and lo and behold, a lot of parents resonated with it. And from that moment on, Oh Happy Play became a destination for kidspiration, but also just to share, that mindset through our everyday life. And that's kind of how it came about. And it's definitely how I've come across Dr. Becky as well.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy. What made you choose this book?
Well, through just getting my certification in general, it involves a lot of reading of a lot of different parenting books. Dr. Becky is really natural in the way that she relates to, she's kind of been coined the millennial parenting whisperer.
Wow.
She's a PhD clinical psychologist and has had her own private practice for years, but she's also a mom of 3 young kids, which street cred. Right off the bat, but it's just the way she is able to get into that psyche of parents and know what our anxieties are and how that comes out in our parenting. So as much as it's a child development book, it's really a self-development book as well. And, through tips and scripts and just different examples, she really outlines what she has coined as the good inside approach.
Right.
And she does a great job in the book. And I really have found it to be the most comprehensive parenting book that I've read. And it really kind of speaks to that intuitive connection-based parenting.
Right. And it's interesting because her whole theory is every child inherently is good
Yes.
inside,
Exactly.
regardless of their behaviors.
Right.
So how would you describe this overall concept of the book?
Well, I think a lot of times people will have a hard time separating their child's identity with their child's behavior. So, my son's hitting his sibling, he must be a bad kid. And instead, if you can look at the behavior as a communication and a window into the inner person, you can see the behavior usually is communication. It's usually your child saying they're having a hard time coping with something. So dysregulation is a word that parents use often. My child's dysregulated. Well, dysregulation is really emotions that the child hasn't yet learned to cope with. So through the good inside approach, she teaches being able to separate their identity from their behaviors and shaping. It's not about trying to shape their behavior. It's more about growing and nurturing their growing mind and just help them into deal with these emotions they're going to have now and through adulthood as well.
Right. And she talks a lot about connection-based approach.
Yes.
How do you implement that personally in your life?
So she refers to it as connection capital, and it is a good way to look at it because for me personally, we have 4 kids and
A fun household to be in.
Yes, it is hard to get alone time. We have found that dating our children has worked out. So we will,
Interesting.
they each get a week, and one day, there's 4 weeks in a month, and like 1 week we'll take our oldest out to dinner, whether it's me or my husband. She likes to go golfing with my husband, or we'll take them for ice cream, but just one-on-one time. And we've kind of coined it dating. So they always look forward to their dates. But the connection capital is probably the most crucial point she makes in the book, is that, behavior a lot of times is the unmet needs of the child. And in order to really get down to what's under the surface, you have to be connected with them. So by spending time with them, playing is so important. It's hard sometimes to find time to just sit and play when you have a laundry list of things to do around the house. But if you can make time, even 10 minutes a day per child, then that little bit of one-on-one time or play time will hold them over essentially through this connection capital theory. Yes.
And it's so beautiful that you spend that one-on-one time, because there's a lot of parents, I work with a lot of parents as well, and they think by just spending time with their kids, let's say all 4 of them together in your example, that's enough. But sometimes you might be with one child over the other, and you're not really having that one-on-one connection in that one-on-one setting.
Right.
So what are the benefits that you've seen having those one-on-one dates with your child?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can tell, especially summer's a great example, because weeks will go by, we're at a schedule, real life happens, and there are times where we don't get in that connection capital. And you can vividly see when we've had it and when we haven't, in the form of sibling rivalry. And, when they feel like they have to fight for our attention, that's when the bickering comes in and the fighting. So if we've made an effort ahead of time to spend time, individual time with each child, even if it's a game of Uno. My kids love games.
Yes, Uno. My nieces and nephews love Uno.
Yes. By playing and taking that time with any of the children, it really builds up this bank of connection with them, and will hold them over when I'm making dinner or when I'm trying to do X, Y, Z.
Yes.
And they don't have my attention. They know either in the back of their head they're going to get my attention, or we've just spent some time together. So really, it really plays out in just everyday life. You can tell when we've spent the time to build up that capital and when we haven't done a good job of it. And there's plenty of times we don't do a good job of it, but it really just comes back to understanding, anytime a child is having a hard time, which, like Dr. Becky will say, you have a good child having a hard time. So anytime there are those tricky parenting moments, you usually can relate it back to an unmet need of some sort. Hungry, tired, Have we spent time together? There usually is a direct correlation between those basic needs and the behaviors that are coming out of your children.
Can you share with us like a specific example that you've encountered of that tricky parenting situation?
How much time do you have? No.
Well,
Yeah. I think a simple one is, your child's playing and it's time for bed. And most of the time when children put up a fight, it's usually adults asking them to do something that they don't find important. And bedtime's a great example because I have one kid who likes to go to bed, but I don't think he's normal. Yeah, the other three, not so much. So, a good example of that is just Dr. Becky talks about the two things can be true theory.
Very interesting concept.
Yeah, so, the boundary that I'm holding is it's bedtime, but the two things that are true is that, yes, it's bedtime, but also you're allowed to feel upset about it. And you're allowed to not want to stop what you're doing, but that's not changing my boundary of it's bedtime. So, she talks a lot about being calm, sturdy leader and how emotions are contagious. So if I let their emotions get to me, a one thing is true approach would say, all right, fine, you can go to bed later. Or a one thing approach is, I can't believe you're fighting bedtime. We do this every night. A two things is true approach allows you to hold your boundary firmly with connection. I know you don't want to stop playing with your Legos right now. I also know that it's bedtime, so I can march up the stairs with you. You can hop on Mommy Express, but we're going upstairs, and you're allowed to feel how you want to feel about it. I think that's probably a good example of how and the connection part of that is the playfulness. I could just pick him up and carry him to bed, or he can jump on my back on the Mommy Express and, then he's laughing. So just keeping that playfulness and connection while firmly holding your boundary is one of the key points that she makes. I think a lot of people initially hear positive parenting and think it's permissive parenting. And it's far from permissive. I think they are definitely have a more traditional approach in their head and think, your kids are going to walk all over you.
Yes.
And that's couldn't be farthest from the truth. It's connection and respect, and just understanding that we have this unique job to shape these children and help them cope with all of these different just aspects of life that they're going to have forever. So it might seem little now, but it really helps shape them even into adulthood.
Of course, because a lot of their personalities established between 7 and under, and then 15 and under, and then later on, life kind of shapes you from there. But the personality, the physical traits always stem from childhood.
Exactly.
And that conditioning. So it's great that you're so conscious of that and helping other people be conscious of that as well. When I initially came across the two things can be true approach, it caught me off guard.
Yes.
So I am not a parent yet. I can't wait to be a parent, but I'm not a parent quite yet.
I'll be here when you do.
Yes, I will be on Oh Happy Place. Like, girl, hook me up, give me some tips. And it was interesting when I came across that approach because I think sometimes our human instinct is to be like, well, it's my way.
Yes.
And because I said so. I feel that's a common line a lot of parents say. Well, because I said so.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a kid doesn't understand because I said so. And so I think sometimes we might not give kids enough credit where it's due, where it's like sit them down and explain.
Yes.
Which the two things can be true approach allows you to tell your child, I see you, I understand you, but understand the boundary I'm trying to make.
Exactly. And that goes back to the traditional parenting as well. And a lot of that is generational. And it's important to say again that even our parents, every person on this planet, children or adults, are good inside. They're always doing the best they can with the resources they have. And I think our generation just happens to have more information. So as much as, the traditional parenting approach was in the past, it really was just generational. They were just doing what their parents did and so forth. And I think now, there is not just a better way, but millennials in general, the information's at our fingertips. And the research is there and just shows that there is a different way. And I think that's what is really the difference.
Yes, you said a key word there, which is generational.
Yes.
What advice would you give to any parents out there who are acting off of generational because of what they saw when they were younger, and who really want to step into a new way of parenting, but may just feel scared or limited in their whereabouts to do so?
Well, I would say, well, first of all, I think another great thing with Good Inside is that's exactly what she starts off explaining, is just how our snap reactions are really our internal, not fight or flight, just the way we were responded to type of thing. And, she helps you get down to why certain things trigger you, what your anxieties are, what are you really worried about when your child does XYZ. And I think one of the most important ideas that really shifted my mindset was when you think about the word discipline. And when you think about discipline, what comes to your mind first?
When I think discipline,
Yeah.
I think on point,
Yes.
consistent.
So discipline really
Focused.
is a disciple. It's a student. To teach. Discipline means to teach. And I think in the past, discipline meant, you'll be seen and not heard. You are going to go to timeout, behavior modification. And when in actuality, discipline means to teach, not to punish. So that for me was a turning point in just kind of understanding that generational difference
Yes.
in the parenting approach in general.
Yes, I love that. And you said something which is timeout. And I have this theory, a personal theory, that I find really interesting. Because when we're younger and they send us to time out,
Yes.
when we really think about it, that's the only time, if you have siblings, that you ever spend time alone.
Yeah.
And so in your mind, you think spending time alone is bad because when I go to timeout is when I spend time alone.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because I'm on this journey to self and I'm spending so much alone time, and it's like contradicting what alone time was when I was
Right.
younger.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you give for parents to be able to create a space where kids can have alone time and not it be identified to timeout
Right.
as a bad
So,
thing?
in our house specifically, we have a calm down corner. And it really is just a bench by our front door. I have, for one of our children specifically, a little bag with some fidgets in it. And they've kind of been trained that if they're having a hard time, they can go sit there. And, if I need to separate them from a sibling, I can take them there. It's not a punishment. I will sit with them. There's an analogy that I love about just sitting on the bench with your children's emotions and allowing them to have these emotions. And that's kind of why I chose the bench. But essentially, it is a timeout, but I'm with them. I'm not sending them away. And you think about timeout as sending them to their room. And then, you have a teenager who, when something goes wrong, they run to their room and shut the door. And it's like, well, that's what they've been conditioned to do, is when they're having these big emotions, when they're having this hard time, they're going to run and be alone. When really, if you can sit on the bench with their emotions and help them work through what they're feeling, even if you don't agree with them, which is the two things can be true. Mommy's mean. I understand that you're mad right now. And just talk to them and be there with them while they're getting regulated and moving out of this state of dysregulation.
Right. There's a quote that says, a parent's external words become a child's internal words.
Yes, I love that
How
one.
important is a parent's external words / conversations that they're having around their kids?
I think they're the most important because, what's going on even inside our minds is not this, it's not going to be translated the same to them. So it's just as easy, for a child you're being rude right now, or just telling them, I can't believe you're doing XYZ. And then they think, or even just by punishing or that traditional method, they internalize that. They think, well, I must be a bad kid. One thing again, from the book that I say often is, you're a good kid having a hard time, and I'm going to help you through it. And I really do think that the way that we speak to them is their internal voice. And so by teaching them that their emotions are normal, happiness isn't the goal. You're not always going to be happy. You're going to have a wide range of emotions, and that doesn't make you bad. That makes you human. And just teaching them, and it might be little spurts from the time they're little through adulthood. It's not like this approach isn't going to make your kids not misbehave or not have these big feelings. They're going to. And, a child is going to act childish and that's their job. And our job is to take each moment as a teachable moment and help them work through it and develop these skills. Resilience is cultivated, and you build resilience by working through all these different emotions.
Right. And in this household, this beautiful household of yours with 4 kids and a beautiful, amazing husband, I'm sure he's incredible.
Oh, he's amazing. Much better than me.
What happens when you guys get in conflict? How do you guys deal with arguments in your household?
Honestly, we don't ever do it in front of the children. So if we have a conflict, and usually our conflicts revolve around maybe disagreeing on XYZ, and it's usually like, okay, we talk about that later kind of thing. I think it's important. We don't hide our emotions from our kids. I mean, there is plenty of times when my daughter or my sons will, my daughters or my sons will do something, and I've just found it to be easy to be like, I'm feeling really frustrated myself right now, name my own feelings. I'm going to step aside. I'm going to go to my room, and I'll be back after I calm down and we can talk about this. So I don't shy away from showing them, just if I'm sad or upset or frustrated. Sometimes I think it helps them. I mean, there are times where I would specifically make sure they were listening and be like, oh, this recipe didn't turn out how I wanted. That is so frustrating. Like, I wonder what I could do. Should I, XYZ? And you can always kind of see them perk up like, oh, mommy has struggles too. And, it's a minor thing, but it is important, I think, for them to see you feeling emotion as well. And then disagreement is, another thing. If usually any kind of conversation with anybody in our family is one-on-one, if they're having any kind of struggles. Yeah. It's just talking about it and trying to be as real as possible so that they can learn from it. Everything is a teachable moment.
For sure. And it's interesting because a parent once was saying advice, and one of the things they mentioned that I took from it was, if you do happen to fight in front of the kids, make sure they see you make up.
Yes, absolutely. And that's true when you have arguments with your own children. One thing, again, that my husband has always been really good at, and it was something I had to learn how to do, was apologize to my kids. I think, my husband and I, we can apologize to each other, but there's something there about also apologizing to your children if you mess up. We're human. We make mistakes. And that repair is such a huge piece of connection. So as much as this is a parenting book, it's also a relationship book.
It is.
So what rings true for my husband and I is the same for our children. There's been so many times where I will go back to one of them and be like, hey, I'm really sorry with how I handled that. I said XYZ, and what I really meant to say was this, and I hope you know that that's not okay for me to get my frustration out on you, and I hope you accept my apology. And depending on their mood, most of the time they do.
Yes.
I have one who will be like, I don't.
I don't.
Yes, but they really do.
Yes.
But it's just the act of apologizing, which I think is, kind of underrated.
Yeah.
I don't think many parents think that they should have to apologize to their kids, and I think that's true for husbands, wives, children.
Yeah, in any relationships.
Exactly, any relationship.
And speaking of relationships, I want to talk about the relationship with self.
Yes.
Because something she mentions is your relationship with yourself ends up stemming to your relationship with your child.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's another great thing with the book. It talks a lot about self-love and then giving that love to your children. So in order for me to be the best mom that I can be, I have to be in a good headspace. And in order to be in a good headspace, you have to, you know, take care of yourself, essentially. And so there's a lot of self-care and mantras in there, and even examples. One example she gives in the book, essentially, maybe not word for word, talks about the end of the day and you're cooking dinner and the children are bickering in the back, and you pull out the chicken and the chicken is expired that you were gonna make, and then you were like, we're gonna do cereal for dinner. And then your husband walks in and is like, cereal for dinner. And you throw the cereal. You're like, oh my, you know, you blow up.
Yeah.
And you think, like, would you want your husband in that moment to be like, you are crazy. You are out of control. Like, what is wrong with you? Or would it feel better if they said, oh, something must be really going on for you to react that way to me? You want to tell me a little bit about what's going on and I can help you? And I think a lot of times we have so many times that we do overreact, and being able to see that our gut reactions to things are pretty similar to how our kids are. And how if we can be in a good headspace and take time for ourselves, whether, you know, it is the mantras that she talks about, or going for a walk, or stepping away when your child is really, you know, your frustration levels going up, and giving yourself that minute to take a break, allowing yourself to walk away and calm yourself down before you engage. And so, I think part of becoming the parent that you want to be is be that self-love aspect for sure.
And what are some things you personally do for self-care?
You know, it's hard during summer break, but walks are, I mentioned it before, going for walks really clears my mind. I think that's one of my ultimate favorite things to do, whether I go walk in silence or I listen. Dr. Becky also has a lot of great podcasts, easy to digest tidbits and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd say going for walks for sure.
What's the number one question you get asked from parents?
How do you do it?
How do you do it?
But I mean, I think that is my biggest, I guess, point with Oh Happy Play is, you know, some may look at us and think chaos, 4 kids, and we had 4 kids in 4 years.
Wow,
So,
back to back.
Yes.
Let's
So
go.
on the outside, it looks chaotic, but, you know, being able to really have a calm, connected family and doing that through the different practices, the good inside approach, and just sharing that on my blog and Instagram, and just giving little snippets of how you can have that mindset. You know, on the outside, it does look chaotic, and it probably is a little chaotic. I say I'm a chaos embracer because you have to be. And it's really mindset. I mean, I could look at them all and think, well, you know, this is crazy. Or I can think we have 4 kids, they're all having fun. You know, it's easy to look at the mess and think, wow, our house is out of control. Or I can think they are playing, this is their summer, they're making memories and they're having a good time. So it really, if anything, I think that concept of just accepting the chaos for what it is, but not letting that chaos get to you internally is probably my biggest takeaway of, you know, what I hope to share, at least in the social world, through my blog.
I love that. And how did you come up with the name Oh Happy Play?
Well, my blog has morphed over the years. When it originally started, as I mentioned, it was Kidspiration, sharing my daughter's nursery and their playroom. And it really started with me sharing all of their play spaces. And since then, I've kept the name Oh Happy Play because I do feel that through play, you can connect a lot with your children. Play is the world of the child. So if you can enter into their world, that's where you get that connection capital. So Oh Happy Play has morphed over the years, but the name has always felt right.
Yeah. Wow. I absolutely love
Thank you.
that. Keep on. That's
Yes.
amazing. Something that Kennedy mentions is it's never too late to
Right.
change your parenting behavior. Do you
Mhm.
agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, some people, whether you come across this approach when your children are little or you come across it when they're older, it goes back to that relationship. It goes back to just giving your children the most generous interpretation of their behaviors. And you can do that at any age. You can, start when they're little, and these methods work through adulthood. It really goes back to relationship. And if you are starting on the later side, she gives you the confidence to repair. You can always, always, always repair. And that goes back to even apologizing to your children and building that connection capital and that relationship and moving from maybe a place of control and fear into collaboration and respect. And it's never too late to, even if you have an older child, to say, I don't like the parent I've been the last couple of years. I feel like I
Taking
can be better for
responsibility.
you and I want to be better for you. And you deserve to have a little bit more of a say. Children always want that autonomy over their life. And it can be done respectfully. It can be done sturdy and firm, but giving them the chance to just express how they've been feeling. I mean, even my oldest daughter, sometimes I'll tell her, it's hard being the oldest sister. I can see that we're struggling with XYZ, and just take a moment to let her know, like, that cannot be easy being the oldest with those three little ones under you, and just let her know that I appreciate what she's doing. All of my children, my middle daughter, it's the same kind of thing. It's tough being the middle child, and you aren't quite the oldest, but then you have these two little brothers who are rambunctious and fun sometimes to her. I mean, they all play really well together, but it is, I'm not trying to just mask any feelings they have and make them happy. Like, there is real life happening. And so whether your child's older or younger, you can always go back and just, again, tell them you want to do better and just make it a collaborative process.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the theme of understanding.
Yes.
Because that's inevitably what's going on. You're understanding as you're having that conversation with your oldest daughter, as you're having a conversation with your middle daughter, and understanding, putting yourselves in their shoes, and recognizing where they are. Because at the end of the day, kids just want to feel seen.
Exactly. They want to feel felt. They want to know that they matter, and that, there's another great analogy in the book too. She talks about a pilot of an airplane, and she says, there's 3 different pilots you could have. You're on this airplane and you hit a bunch of turbulence. And the first pilot starts yelling at you, like, calm down, you're out of control. Like, why are you so scared? You guys are crazy. And then the second pilot is like, you really have nothing to be worried about. This isn't that bad. You're making a big deal out of nothing. And then you have the third pilot who's like, guys, I know there's a lot of turbulence. I've done this before. I'm confident that I can get us through this, and we're going to land, and it's okay to feel scared, but know that I'm in control and I've got this under control. And it's like, which pilot do you want to listen to, and which one makes you feel better? And I think ultimately, calm is contagious. And if you can react to any tricky parenting situation from a place of calm and firm, children are going to listen better. And, you might not, the behaviors might still be there, but you're getting to the bottom of why the behaviors are there. similar to a leak in the ceiling. You could put duct tape on it, or you could figure out where that leak is coming from and why.
Yeah.
And it's the same for children
For sure.
or anybody in general.
Right. And what would you say has been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome in motherhood so far?
Honestly, I think it goes back to, and I think everybody probably has the same anxiety of being judged. And, kids, there's part of allowing your kids to have these emotions, and then there's another of implementing it in real life on a playground when your child is freaking out. It's hard not to look around and think, is anybody judging me right now? Like, no matter how you respond, I mean, you could respond in the most gentle, kind way, or you could respond in a harsh way. I think anybody's gonna think, people must be judging me. Do they think my kids are bad? And it really goes back to the mindset of, just trusting that you have a good kid, having a hard time, and just canceling that noise. I think in general, parents have a lot of noise around them, whether it's their parents or friends or family or strangers at a park that you should not care about their thoughts. That noise is what gets in the way a lot of the time. And that fear of connecting your child's behavior to their identity, that's a constant work that I know, at least I find myself trying to navigate. I know I don't want to connect their behaviors to their identity, but you're human, and it does happen. So just keeping that mindset is something I have to do often, which is why I do listen. I've read this book twice now, and her podcast, and just always having somebody in your pocket to like bring you back to this place. And I think that's what I try to share too through social media, because it is a great way to be a voice for other parents. If I can remind you that XYZ, just throwing out reminders that I needed in the moment, that might also help other parents.
What advice would you give to any mother listening in who's just like, I feel so overwhelmed. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to juggle all these things. How do I begin?
I would say stop what you're doing. Don't matter how many kids you have, spend some quality time individually with each child. Put your to-do list to the back burner for a minute, 10 minutes, and start with the connection and relationship with your child. A lot of the times when we feel overwhelmed, I know for me, like I said, with 4 kids, there are toys everywhere, and I can easily get overwhelmed and let the mess outside make me feel messy inside. And, sometimes coming back from vacation is a great example. I will allow myself to just leave everything as it is and just make sure that the children's needs are met and connecting with them. And then once that's established, I can get anything done because they've been taken care of. So I do think that if you start with the relationship and the connection, a lot of the rest of it just flows.
Love that. So awesome. Do you have any favorite takeaways from this book?
Yes, I would say a couple of my favorite takeaways is being that sturdy, calm leader, giving your children the most generous interpretation of themselves, and then that calm is contagious.
I love that you said that calm is contagious, because
Yes,
it's a
it's
simple
my
like
favorite.
one-liner that you can apply to anything, and it's almost like when you're mad, you can
Yes.
just be like,
I tell
calm is
myself it
contagious,
often.
calm is contagious, calm is
Yeah.
contagious, and really circle back. So that's a powerful,
Yes.
3 words that can
Exactly.
really bring calmness wherever you
Yeah.
are. So yes, we're gonna play a fun little game now. Okay, it's called word associations.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say 10 words from the book and
Okay.
10 words not from the book.
Okay.
And then you're gonna say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay? Are
See
you
how
ready?
fast I could be, yes.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. From the book. Nurturing.
Nurturing is understanding to me.
Understanding. Patience.
Calm.
Calm. Guidance.
Teaching.
Responsibility. First thing.
Leader.
Support.
Connection.
Discipline.
Teach.
Love.
Connection again? Can I say the same
Yes.
thing? Okay.
Sacrifice.
Motherhood.
Bonding.
Connection capital.
Connection's a big one for you,
Yeah.
huh, mommy? I love that.
Well, she talks about that one-on-one time.
I love that. All right, 10 words not from the book.
Okay.
First word that comes to mind. Cloud.
Sad.
Kangaroo.
Joey, my daughter.
Oh, that's sweet. France.
Paris.
Mirror.
Reflection.
Peach.
My favorite color.
Dragon.
Ooh, spirited child.
Ooh. Motherhood.
Love.
Oasis.
A spa. I would like to go there.
Golden.
Golden rule.
Love.
Connection.
Yes. So connection is the number one thing on your mind.
Yeah.
I love it.
It goes back to everything.
Yes. The games are interesting because
Yes.
it makes you realize like
I
your own
know.
thought processes.
I'm like, my brain had to work really fast there.
It's been such a pleasure having you on, Noelle. You are
Been
such
so
a
fun.
beautiful ray of light.
Thank you.
Keep on your motherhood journey.
Thank
Keep
you.
sharing and inspiring other mothers and parents overall to
Mm.
just really show up for their children.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being
appreciate it.
here.
I've had a lot of fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you did amazing.
Thank
You were
you.
phenomenal. We love you.
Thank you.
So there you have it. We just finished discussing Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy. Make sure to get your copy today in the link in description below. For any mothers, leave your comments. We want to know how to better ourselves and leave any tips and tools. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We love you guys. Turn the page and we'll see you on the next one.